In the name of Allah, the most merciful, the most beneficent. Assalamu alaikum, I am Afia Mahmood. This is the course of Advanced Phonology for BS English Linguistics Group, Semester 8. The topic for today is Distinctive Features Classification. In this lecture, we will look at the classification of distinctive features in detail. This lecture will cover these topics. It will see what are some major class features, manner features, place or point of articulation features, cavity features, basic vowel features and laryngeal features. It will cover all the topics which are mentioned in the course outline. Now we begin by major class features. Major class features classify sounds according to their most basic characteristics. Dear students, when we try to define speech sounds, their most major classes will be consonants and vowels. If we move a little further, the other major categories will be obstruents. Obstruents are generally, stops are generally the consonants which have greater restriction in the passage of air when these are pronounced. And then certain other major classes are liquids and glides. Liquids include l and r, and glides include w and y. Now these are some of the major classes, and the features that are used to describe these major classes are sonorant, consonantal and approximant features. We will look at each of them in detail. The first feature that is used to describe the major classes of sounds is sonorant. Now sonorant sounds are those that are produced with the vocal tract open enough that air can flow freely without obstruction at any point. So now in sonorant sounds, the vocal tract is letting the air to escape freely without any obstruction. Thus, vowels, glides, laterals, rhotics and nasals are sonorants. When you pronounce vowel sounds like a, e or u, you can feel that there is no obstruction in the passage of air. When you are pronouncing the glides like w and y, the articulators are coming close to each other, but still air can escape freely through the air passage, through your vocal cavity. Then in laterals like l sound, though there is some restriction in the middle of the mouth, your tongue is touching the alveolar ridge, but still air can freely escape through the sides of the tongue. Similarly, nasals and sonorants are also similarly, rhotics and nasals are also sonorants. Rhotic sounds are r sounds and nasals are m and n. When you are pronouncing m and n, your oral cavity is closed, but air can still freely escape through your nasal passage, through your nose. This is why nasals are also called sonorants. In each of the case, there is a clear, uninterrupted path for the air to follow. As a result, sonorants have a formant structure. So, like vowel sounds, sonorants will also have a formant structure which is visible in the spectrogram. So, they have an F0 or F1 value. You can also sing a sonorant, like singing a nasal is called humming, like you can say or n. So you can actually sing nasals. It is very common in the singing as well. Now distinctive features are designed to find out some shortcut categories. They will include, so now you can know that sonorants include both vowels and consonants. we have both vowels and consonants as sonorants. So the sounds that we had just discussed, the nasals, the glides, the vowels, these are all sonorants. The remaining consonants are minor sonorants. There is a traditional name for minor sonorant consonants, which are the stops, affricates and fricatives. These are called obstruents. But we cannot say that obstruent is a feature. It is simply a label for the class of minor sonorant sounds. So you can say that minor sonorant sounds are obstruents. Okay, now the next feature which is used to define the major classes, this feature is consonantal feature. The consonantal sounds in a sense are almost the opposite of sonorants, in that they are defined as sounds having a significant obstruction somewhere, even if some other part of the vocal tract is open. Now remember again, in sonorants we said that air passage will be open. The air can freely escape through the mouth or through the nasal cavity. Now in consonantal sounds there will be significant obstruction somewhere, either in the oral cavity or in the nasal cavity. So those sounds will be consonantal sounds. Now the only sounds that are not consonantal sounds are vowels and glides. Glides again v and ear. These are the sounds that are not consonantal. V and ear, these sounds are called semi-vowels in phonology. All other sounds are actually the consonantal sounds. Now, laterals have an obstruction in the center of the mouth. We said that laterals are included in the category of sonorants, but now laterals are also included in the category of consonantals because they have an obstruction, and our definition for consonantal, you can see that there should be a significant obstruction somewhere. So laterals have an obstruction in the center of the mouth. Rhotics have obstructions either at the alveolar ridge or at the uvula in some languages. Now nasals have the entire mouth closed even though the nasal passages are open. Now this is why nasals are also categorized in the consonants, that though nasal passage is open but the oral cavity or the oral passage is closed. And of course, stops, fricatives and affricates are all by definition obtrusive sounds and therefore plus consonantal. So only vowels and glides are minus consonantal, all other sounds are plus consonantal. Now we will move to this third feature, this which is approximant. Approximants are sounds that involve insufficient obstruction to create noise. Now students, just look at the name approximant. Approximant means that something is happening approximately. Now two articulators are coming close to each other. They are approximately coming close to each other. They are not really making a constriction. They are not really blocking the air passage. So they are just approximately coming close to each other, and there is insufficient obstruction to create noise. So vowels, glides and liquids. Liquids are R and L, rhotics and laterals are approximants, while nasals and obstruents are non-approximants. So together with sonorant and consonantal, these three features define the major classes of sounds. So here is a small activity for you. You have to fill these cells. You have to tell which stops are sonorant and which stops are consonantal. So you have to fill this particular chart. You have about 1 minute. After this I'll show you its answers as well. Now let's look at the answers. So you can see stops are minus sonorants, plus consonants and minus approximant. Now you see that all these 5 major classes can be defined or described with the help of these 3 features only. So now you see it is a smart solution. Now the second category is that of manner features. In manner features, we define consonants in greater detail. Now, details of the kind of constriction or obstruction taking place. We see that what kind of constriction it is. Either this is a constriction made at the teeth position, at an alveolar ridge position, or whether is it the tip of the tongue or the blade of the tongue which is making a constriction. So we try to focus on more detail in these manner class features. The first manner class feature that we have here is continuant. Continuant sounds involve a continuous airflow, while minus continuant sounds have the airflow cut off somewhere. So in continuance, the air will flow continuously through your mouth. Now but we are not saying here that it is going to escape freely. There can be a very narrow passage for the air to escape. So in the simplest terms, we can say that all fricatives are plus continuant sounds, and all vowels and glides are also plus continuant sounds. So you have to see that there should be a continuous airflow. Now in fricatives, when we produce like f, v or s, z, th, th, now air passage is actually blocked but not completely blocked. There is a narrow passage for the air to escape through. You can elongate these sounds as much as you like s. You can make a long hissing sound. So continuants are fricative sounds, and of course vowels and glides as well, because there will also be a continuous airflow in the production of vowels and glides. In addition, nasals, which are frequently considered stops, are minus continuant, because when you pronounce ma or na, air actually is not continuously flowing through your mouth. So affricates, since they begin with complete closure of the vocal tract, are of course non-continuants. So in affricates we actually have 2 phases. The first phase is when there is a closure, when there is a stop. This is why affricates cannot be categorized under the heading of continuance. In affricates, though the second part is of fricatives, but still, because in the first part there is some closure, there is some blockage of air, so there is no continuous airflow. Again, only fricatives, vowels and glides are plus continuant sounds. The liquids are somewhat trickier. It seems clear that all kinds of r sounds are continuants. Now in liquids we have these 2 types of sounds, r and l. Now all kinds of r sounds are continuant. Like when you pronounce r in red, you can make it longer. When you are pronouncing r, there will be a continuous airflow, r. Or you can make a continuous airflow in the production of r sound. But there is some puzzle, or there is some confusion about laterals. Now what's that confusion? In some languages they appear to act as if they were stops. Now in some languages of the world, you can to hear some of the laterals, you can go to Wikipedia audio chart. I have given the link in the end in the last slide, and you can try to listen to the laterals which are and you will be able to see that in some languages laterals are acting as stops. So some people categorize laterals as continuants because in the production of laterals there is complete closure at the center of the mouth. No doubt, yes, there is complete closure, but the air can still freely and continuously escape through the sides of the tongue, and this continuous airflow makes its nature as a makes it categorization as continuant. So this dual nature shouldn't be surprising because it can be categorized in the both ways. So this is why we can say that there are some confusions regarding laterals, because these can be categorized both as stop or both as obstruent and continuant. Now the next manner feature is nasal. It's very simple, you all already know this, that this feature is relatively self-evident. Sounds made with a lowered velum are plus nasal. When the air is escaping through the nasal passage, it means that these sounds are nasal. Now, but nasalized, there are also nasalized vowels in some languages, like in Urdu and Punjabi we have the nasalized vowels. Like if you say the word ma, in ma, nun gunna, actually it represents a nasal vowel. If you say the word main, in it again nun gunna represents a nasal vowel. So nasal vowels and nasal consonants both will be categorized in this feature. Now strident, another manner feature. Strident means noisy. Strident sounds are relatively noisy, and this noise is actually shown in the waveform as well. When we look at the acoustic properties in the spectrogram, we are able to see this noisy feature there. So this feature has limited applicability. It applies to the sounds that involve friction. So there are only two kinds of sounds which involve friction, and these are fricatives and affricates. Both of these are strident sounds. All fricatives involve a constriction of the vocal tract sufficiently tight to produce a noisy stream of air. This disturbance caused by forcing air through a narrow opening constitutes the hissing sound. And because when you have to produce the fricatives and affricates, you are actually leaving a very small passage for the air to escape, which causes a hissing sound and which causes more disturbance, turbulence in the airflow, and which results in a noisy sound. Now there is also some something more to strident. The flow of air or the jet of air can be either simple or complex. When we make these sounds, I will play these sounds after completing this topic of strident. These sounds are present in some other languages, not in Urdu and English. So when we make a th or the sound, the air goes straight out from our lips. But when we make an f or v sound, when we make an f or v sound, the flow of air is directed against the lower lip. Now you can test this for yourself by pulling your lower lip down out of the way. If you make an F or V with the lip pulled down and then permit it to return, you will hear a radical difference in the sound. But this does not happen with these sounds. Now you have to compare F and V with an S, S or Z and Th or the. What actually happens in the production of s and z and f and v is this. The sounds made with the additional surface for the airstream to contact are strident sounds. When you are producing th and the air is escaping directly through the mouth. You are actually not getting any additional surface for the airstream to contact. But when you are making f or v sound, the air is actually directed towards your lower lip. It means it has got some additional surface for the airstream to contact. When you are producing s and z sound, again you have got some additional surface s and z because these are produced from the post alveolar area. So s and z, or alveolar area at least, these are produced from a little behind your teeth. So we get some additional surface for the airstream to contact. So wherever you will get additional surface, those sounds will be called these sounds will be called strident sounds. The remaining sounds will be non-strident. So f, v, s, z, sh. These sounds in English are stridents, and all other are non-stridents. So now I will play some of the strident sounds for you. So I have opened this page of Wikipedia where audio sounds are available. I am going to play this strident, these sounds, these symbols which you just saw there.
Va, ava. Fa, afa.
Now look at these.
Atza, atza. Za, adza.
So now you have seen that these sounds are different and these are not present in English or Urdu. If you want to hear the sounds of any different symbols that you find here, you can go to this link. I have given it in the end in the last slide. Now laterals, you are very much familiar with this. Lateral sounds are made with the sides of the tongue lowered, while the tip remains in contact with the roof of the mouth. In English and Urdu, you have l sound, which is lateral, and all other sounds are minus lateral. These some dental, alveolar, palatal or retroflex regions are plus lateral sounds and present in some of the other languages of the world. Now here again is an activity for you. Before you move on, you have to do this. You have to try to write all the continuant phonemes, all the nasal, strident and lateral phonemes in these columns. Now the third feature or third categorization of these distinctive features is categorization according to the places or point of articulation features. In this particular set of features divides up the upper articulators. Upper articulators means the articulators above the pharynx. Now from uvula to your lips. But this classification will be slightly different from the traditional classification where we had seen labials and labiodentals. This will be slightly different. Now the first one is first classification is labials. Labial sounds are made at the lips. In the traditional classification, we had two kinds of labials. We had bilabial sounds and we also had labiodentals. Now here we are categorizing both labiodentals and bilabials under one category, labials. So you can see that labials, there can be stops and fricatives, and there can be labiodental fricatives as well, and there can be certain, so there can be some rounded sounds like rounded vowels which can also be categorized in the labials. And we can distinguish between the subdivisions of labials for the fricatives with the use of the feature strident. Now, so for example, labiodentals, f and v are stridents and bilabials are non-strident. So you should remember in the stridents we said that when we are getting some additional surface for the airstream to contact with, so in f and v we get some additional surface for the airstream to contact. So these can be categorized in the the subcategories of labials can also be categorized under this strident feature. Next is the feature coronal. In coronal, the sounds are made with the tip or blade of the tongue. This is probably the most diverse region of the mouth, probably because the blade of the tongue is capable of very precise and quick movements. Now here the tongue can touch the teeth, the alveolar ridge and behind it, both with the tip and blade with the blade of the tongue. Phonologists generally define coronal as normally involving the tongue tip touching the alveolar ridge, but there are further subdivisions of coronal sounds as well. If the tongue tip touches the teeth, an additional feature is needed, and if either tip or blade touches behind the alveolar ridge, another different feature is needed. So if the tongue tip will touch teeth, we will look at another feature, there will be another feature required. So there within coronal there are these additional features, or you can say there are these subdivisions of coronals. So the first subdivision of coronal is distributed. To express difference between alveolar and dental, the feature distributed has been proposed. Roughly, distributed sounds are laminal sounds, means they are made with the tongue blade, while minus distributed sounds are made with the tongue tip. However, there are almost no languages which distinguish between dental and alveolar stops. So this feature is rarely needed. Generally, strident feature is used to distinguish fricatives in these regions. So though we are looking at this feature distributed features which is there to express the difference between alveolar and dental feature, but it is not present in either Urdu or English and in some more languages as well. Now there is this anterior feature. The feature anterior was introduced originally in the book, this book, The Sound Pattern of English, and it actually divides the entire vocal tract into a front and back half, with the dividing line just behind the alveolar ridge. Now anterior has been downgraded into a subdivision of coronal with sounds made at the alveolar ridge or teeth plus anterior and those made behind it. So you can see that it is actually anterior sounds are here vocal tract is divided into a front and back half, and so the dividing line is actually just behind the alveolar ridge. So we can say that th sound and s sound, you can see that s is produced somewhere in the alveolar area. So these sounds are actually plus anterior sounds. The sounds which are produced from the area behind the alveolar ridge, those sounds are minus anterior sounds like sh and y. So the sounds which are produced before the alveolar ridge area, these sounds are plus and alveolar sounds. Okay, strident is also included in the category of coronal features. We have already discussed it. Now dorsal, this is another place of articulation feature, and dorsal feature denotes sounds made by the back of the tongue touching the palate or velum or uvula. Now there are these three categories, that either tongue touches the palate or the velum or the uvula. The vast majority of the languages have only sounds from this one of these categories in this region, but some languages do have palatal stops or uvular sounds, both of these. Now in English and in Urdu, both of the languages, we just have the sounds where back of the tongue is making contact with the velum. The sounds are kh and g, where back of the tongue is making contact with the velum. Now guttural sounds, these sounds include pharyngeals and glottals. Some languages, particularly in the Semitic family, treat this group as a class, which has led some phonologists to believe that they share a point of articulation. So these sounds are again not part of either Urdu or English. So I will just show you some of these sounds through the chart again. So here we are at the chart again. See some of the glottal sounds we will see.
ah, ah,
pa, 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 pa,
ha, ha,
ha, aha, ha, aha,
ah, ah,
ha, aha.
Now we are moving towards our second last topic. We will see some of the basic vowel features. These features are particularly used to describe or to define vowels, and these features refer to the placement of the body of the tongue and are based on the assumption that there is a neutral position for the tongue, and that therefore each positive specification for one of these features is a deviation from that neutral position. So these features assume that tongue is generally at a neutral position. To produce certain vowel sounds, it either rises from that neutral position or it either gets lowered. So it is said that there is this vowel sound, this sound which is generally used in bird, this sound, that whenever we are producing this sound, it is an assumption that our tongue is at the neutral position while production of this sound. And when so if the tongue body is raised above this level, like in E or U, we will say that it is a plus high vowel. If the tongue body is lowered from this level, like in A sound or in A sound, we will say that it is a plus low vowel. So let's look at some of the basic vowel features. First feature that we have here is high non-high feature, or you can say plus minus high. High sounds are made with the tongue raised from the neutral position, while non-high sounds are made without such raising of the body of the tongue. So you know very well that in the quadrilateral chart, which sounds are at the higher position, these are E and U are at the highest position. Interestingly, students, we can also categorize the semi-vowels or the consonants according to this feature of plus minus high. So the glides w and y, because when you produce w sound and y, you will feel like your tongue is raised as it is raised in the production of u and e sound respectively. Now all other sounds are non-high. So just remember that quadrilateral chart and it will be easier for you to remember which sounds are high. So E and O are high. Now low sounds. So again remember that neutral position. If your tongue is lowered from that neutral position, if the tongue is depressed or lying at a level below that which it occupies when at rest in a neutral position, those sounds will be called plus low sounds. Now again, when you are pronouncing a sound, now again picture quadrilateral chart in front of you, and just picture that which sounds are written at the bottom of the quadrilateral chart, and you will see that a sound and you will see that a sound. These are written at the bottom of the quadrilateral chart. So a and o sound, these are low sound, and so there are some pharyngeal consonants as well. We had just listened to these pharyngeal consonants in that chart. All other sounds are non-low, like mid vowels, like a as in bet or o as in doll. These are non-high and non-low sounds. Okay, now back or non-back, obviously when your back of the tongue is raised, so body of the tongue retracted from the neutral position are back sounds, when back part of the tongue will be raised. And you know, when you now to picture this, you can actually you can see that all the sounds which are written at the back of the quadrilateral chart are included in this. So u, o and a, these are the back vowels, and front vowels are these e and a. So it means these are minus, these three are minus back, and these three are plus back. Now some tongue root features. Now what are these tongue root features? We will have to read this slide carefully. The vocal tract is a long tube with holes at both the lip and the throat. The shape of this tube can be modified by rounding the lips and making them protrude, and thus elongating the tube. So we can actually modify the shape of this tube. If you are modifying the shape of the tube, you are obviously modifying some of the sound properties as well. So the tongue root features are these. The advanced tongue root or non-advanced tongue root. We cannot say plus minus advanced tongue root. This ATR is for advanced tongue root. Now this advanced tongue root this feature is not present in Urdu or English language, but it is present in many West African languages. You can go to the link which I have given in the end, and you can listen to some of these sounds. Okay, now it's written here vowels like E, A and O in many West African languages, not in English language or not in Urdu. So in many West African languages, these are produced with the advanced tongue root. Now tense and lag, this feature is present both in Urdu and English. Now we say that tense vowels are produced with the tongue body or tongue root configuration involving a greater degree of constriction than that found in their lax counterparts. This greater degree of constriction is usually accompanied by greater length. The constriction means that you are narrowing down the passage for the air to escape. Just compare the short E sound with longer E sound. When you say fit and when you say feet, or when you say fill or feel, you will see that while saying feel, there is a narrow passage for the air to escape. So when there is a greater constriction, those sounds are actually called tense vowels. The English long vowels and diphthongs are tense, while the short vowels are lax. When you pronounce the short vowels like E, A and A, these are lax vowels. There is passage for the air to escape. There is a, you can say, wide passage, and when you are making the long vowels, there is normally a constricted air passage. A constriction is generally there. So you can just remember this, that long vowels and diphthongs are tense vowels, while short vowels are lax vowels. Now here is a summary of the features that we have covered so far. You can see that this summary has been written with the help of the features that you already know, the traditional class of features. So bilabial includes these, labials and distributed. For example, alveolar includes coronals, because alveolars are also, when you are producing alveolars, your tongue tip is touching the alveolar ridge, and you can see that same happens in coronals and stridents. So there is this summary. Now the last feature, the laryngeal features, the larynx feature. You all know that larynx, through larynx, we are actually the voicing, the larynx is responsible for voicing, for the vibration of the vocal cords or vocal folds. So the original view of laryngeal features was that the only feature needed to describe laryngeal feature was voice. So later on, some of the more features were added, but generally we discussed the feature of voicing in the laryngeal or larynx. The first one is of plus minus spread or spread glottis or non-spread glottis. When the vocal folds or cords are wide apart, the airflow increases through the glottis and it inhibits voicing. This gesture is associated with voicelessness and aspiration. So spread sounds are p and t and k. In these sounds, the vocal cords are wide apart and there is aspiration. The murmured and breathy sounds will be, and in the murmured and breathy sounds, there is also, so vocal cords are also wide apart when you are making some murmuring, because in murmuring or you are also making sort of whispering sounds. So there the vocal cords will be wide apart. All other sounds are non-spread. So p, t, k, remember, will be having the feature of spread glottis. Then constricted glottis. Constricted glottis will be there in the glottalized sounds, like we just had listened to a sound. This a sound is actually present in Arabic. All other sounds are non-constricted. You can listen to these implosives, ejectives and glottalized from the link with second link which has been shared on the last slide. Okay, yes, on this slide. So now you can listen to all of the sounds on this link and through this link as well. The second link actually also will give you the titles of the sounds. So for example, it will tell you that this is ejective sound, this is implosive sound, this is creaky sound, and you can click on the sound of your choice that you would like to listen. Now this is just an additional information Urdu IPA has been given, and these are the reference books which have been consulted to prepare this lecture. Mostly the features of the major class features, the manner features, the place of articulation features have been prepared from this book, the book by Nathan G.S., Phonology, A Cognitive Grammar Introduction, and the vowel features have been prepared from the book An Introduction to Phonology by Katamba F. Now, thank you very much, dear students. The contact details are these. You can contact me or you can contact your course instructors if you find any difficulty in understanding any concept. Thank you very much.